Finally a break in the weather that looks like it's going to hold for a day. Says it's meant to be top of 28, currently 22, but mind you, earlier this morning it said 19, feels like 23 because of the humidity after all the rain. I've brought Batman to another area of town, drove up here because it's all flat. It's not all hilly like around our place, which kind of wears him out but probably aggravates his leg injury. It was my wife who said, don't walk him around on our heels. And I said, well, I can't go to the other flat place because it'll be all muddy from all the rain. And she said, well, find somewhere that's flat. So I just had to think about it. This place is pretty good. So I'll see how far we can walk around here that's maintains kind of a bit of a level walk. It's somewhere new for him too, so he can have all sorts of new sniffs and new places to poop where I can pick it up. You're a funny boy. That man's started a little course of injections for his arthritis, and it's 4 injections that helps build the collagen in his joints, and then he's good for a while again. You can then cut it to once every like 6 months or 4 months, or I don't know, but anyway, he's had them before a while back. They help. And he had one the other day, and today was his second shot of 4. So while we were up at the vet, we went for a little walk because it's a lot more level around here, and we're just getting back to the truck. I'm just in the process of unpacking the scaffold parts fully. All of the stabilizer bars and everything are individually tubed in plastic. So this is one that I've just taken out. These are the platforms for standing on. So there's 4 of them. You can see they've got these little latches so that now I've got that one stuck. That's so that you can climb up through it on a ladder rather than climbing up the outside of the scaffold, and then you just close the latch so you don't fall back through. There's the 2 ladders, all of the leg parts. They're the stabilizers for the ladders. Those things you can see there, they're the stabilizers for the whole platform, for the whole scaffold. So they sort of unfold and you lock these onto your scaffold, and they've got swivelling feet so they'll sit firmly on the ground. And these are the wheels. 4 8-inch, you can see they're very large, very heavy, adjustable wheels. So you slide these up into the bottom leg sections and just spin these to adjust the length to get your first layer level. And then these things are the kickboards, which is still in the plastic. And it's very hot. I was out here in a black t-shirt, so I got out of that, put my hat on. Batman had been down in the yard, and every time I looked up, he was sitting somewhere different. And now he's up there watching. I do plan to get this surrounded while the weather's fine. But when I looked up there today, I saw a furry little tail there. So I climbed up the ladder, had a look in, and the possum was in there again. So if I'm able to, he won't leave there till night now, and I don't particularly want to grab him and freak him out. I did see a couple of houses that had possum boxes, so I might see if I can make something and maybe put it down in our gum tree. So there's the whole lot. 2 ladders, ladder supports, all the leg pieces for each side, and then the stabiliser ones, these ones with the joins in them. This single one here with black locks, that's the bottom brace. Then there's all these blue ones, which are the horizontal braces, and these red ones are the diagonal braces. And you can see the diagonal one's just slightly longer. That's enough to be able to go from like this level to this level across the diagonal to lock it up. Actually, I think it's from this level to this level. It's 2 runs, I don't know. Now my mate's one had those, didn't have the stabiliser ones, but it had both the other ones, but they weren't colour coded. You had to just look at it and see which one was slightly longer. So this one's like kind of like a scaffolding for dummies. But there was a lot of plastic, so I'm going to get all that bundled up and put it in the back of the truck to go to the recycling centre. We've had to come down to Penrith for an appointment, and so Batman had to come with us. We don't want to leave him alone at home, if at all possible. Very similar to when we lost Lucky. We took SAM with us everywhere. While my wife's in her appointment, he gets to have a little bit of a walk somewhere different. He likes it. He's walking very calmly. Yeah, it's really warm out, which is no surprise. He's active. Just a couple of days after the snake incident. Couldn't believe how active he was, but then again, it was a really hot day, and when I first saw him, he was just lying in the sun, and I went, oh, he'll probably move on, but he didn't. And when I finally got hold of a guy to come and get it, he said he was a long way away, and he goes, they'll probably move on, but if he hasn't in like half an hour, I'll be at such and such, and I think it was like Richmond or whatever, and he'd be able to come up the back way through to the mountains. Sure enough, I looked out and first couldn't see him, and then I went down to the front door and looked out, and there he was creeping around through the mondo grass and all over the place. And I rang him back and said, yep, he's still around. He said, okay, I'll come up, but I'm about 50 minutes away. So I just kept an eye on him. There was one section I thought he'd gone again, and then he came out of the long grass over by the fence, and he was just going through the mondo grass because that's where the frogs hide during the day. So they're close to the water but not in it. Over 2 hours he hunted the frogs in the pond. When the guy finally came, he saw him and he goes, oh geez, he's big and he's moving, and he just sort of dropped his bag and stick, jumped in on the rock of the pond and just went to pick him up by the tail,
and he slipped out, and he picked him up again and held him out so that it wasn't near the sharp end. And I picked up his bag and sort of held it out so he didn't have to try and manhandle him for too long. He was feisty. He would have been diameter at the thickest point between 50 and 70 mil, like so close, between 2 and 3 inches thick. And he would have been 120 to 150 centimeters long at least, because when the guy held it up, he was coiled, and I tried measuring him out basically the way he was on the pond, and he was big. So that's 4 to 5 feet long. And he said normally when he gets called out for a snake, it's like this, maybe 30 to 60 centimeters, 1 or 2 foot. And he said he feels like he's freshly shed his skin, so he's growing. Anyway, he got removed, and the main reason that people were, willing to help was because of Batman and the fact that the next door neighbour also has 3 dogs, and they're big dogs that would probably go after a snake. I think Batman would probably go after a snake if he saw it, because he goes after lizards. It was in everybody's best interest for him to be moved on, and that was the day I was thinking of trying to cut the grass out the front. But that night we got such a massive storm, like basically summer. We have hot days, apart from today, followed by storms in the afternoon. The storm probably kicked in around 3:30, 4 o'clock. A lot of thunder, bit of rain, and then that night we got a lot of lightning and thunder and rain. The rain wasn't that heavy, but it got windy. Apparently it was pretty destructive down around the city. Up at our place, it was affecting our lights. Like, the power was fine, but all the lights where I had LED lights in the fixture would dim and flicker, and they were flickering and flickering. I think I had one fixture that wasn't, and I thought maybe just the fixtures in the kitchen were mucking up. But I went to the laundry at one point, and one of the lights started flickering and went dim, and then it went off, but the other 2 were on. And I thought, what's going on? And then just before I left the laundry and went to turn off the light came back on, and they just kept flickering and dimming and coming on, and then dimming and coming on. And at one point in our kitchen, there's one section where I've got 2 lights connected. The one over the stove was LED. The one over the sink was an old halogen, and the one over the stove went out. The one over the sink dimmed, and I went, well, I'm cooking, we've got a gas stove, and the power's on, and when I clicked the starter on the stove, nothing happened with it. It wouldn't work. And so I got out a lighter, lit the stove, and then when the light came back on over the stove, I went, I'm just going to check something. I pressed the starters on the stove, and they worked. Now, it was just so freaky, and our lights just kept flickering on and off. We ended up charging up some little lights we got and putting them around the house and just turning off all of the lights in the house. But the power was fine. Power went off at 1 a.m. and was scheduled to come back on about 11:30 a.m, but it returned at 9. The following day, hot, then rain, and then today it said it was going to be a bit cooler, and it's cold, and it's been basically drizzling all day. It wasn't meant really to be raining, just said cloudy, but drizzling, which means I still haven't been able to mow the front yard. because the day I was going to do it was the day there was a giant snake in the yard. If you had been in that mondo grass and I didn't know he was there, I probably would have hit him with the whippersnipper. And I don't want to do that. Snakes are protected species. You're not allowed to injure or kill them. And the guy messaged me, the snake guy, and he said when he let him go, he wanted to like try and take a video of him being let go. And he said as soon as you put him on the ground, he shot off like crazy. So, loads of energy. There will be a video of the snake and him hunting our frogs. And I know he got several of them. And at one point, after it was gone, I finally let Batman out in the yard, and I was out there and looking around, and I saw a lot of the little frogs escaping from the pond area through the long grass. Fast little fellas. I managed to get one, get him back to the water. I don't know whether the snake was eating tadpoles or whether it was just going after the frogs, because he seemed to be chasing the bigger of the frogs, but I have still heard the big frogs in here, so he didn't get all of them. So that's good news. Anyway, can't do much around the place when the weather is like this. It's gone from being far too hot to be out, because I had to wear gloves with that scaffolding because I was burning my hands just trying to unwrap it and move it. So I was wearing thick gloves. So you couldn't mow then, and then it rained in the afternoon, and now it's just raining today. Anyway, glad that snake drama's over.